Hello, hello. I am here to talk about Jupiter today. I'm talking about Jupiter going into Leo, which has already happened, but I finally got the time to put together a nice video because Jupiter will be in Leo for a whole year, just a tad bit over a year. I'll show you later, but so yeah, Jupiter has gone into Leo. It spent a year in Cancer, transforming and expanding the family uh, archetype. Jupiter is known, well known for expansion and for making things bigger, because it is the biggest planet in our solar system. So I am going to start sharing. Let's see here. Oh, go. Right. So we have got Jupiter in Leo. It's an exciting time, but it's also going to be more challenging than people think. We tend to think of Leo as a fairly easy sign of the zodiac, the one that is just going to have talent and the courage to show that talent and the courage to get up on stage and be in the spotlight. And so I'm here to talk about some of the nuances that are going on with Jupiter and Leo. And I did a lot of research going back into ancient history, looking at the uh, mythology of Jupiter, which is the Greek Zeus. So Jupiter is the Roman version, and we'll see here in a minute um, how that looks. Um, and I also looked at what Jupiter will be doing while Jupiter is in Leo. I have to get used to Jupiter being in Leo. So, one of the first things that I wanted to show is this this slide here, showing a Voyager 2 image of Jupiter. It's the actual picture of Jupiter. Since Leo is all about shining and showing off, I thought that going through some of the physical attributes of Jupiter would be fun to do, first off. And here's a few little facts that Jupiter is the oldest planet made from the gases and dusts from the formation of the sun 4.6 billion years ago. So you don't say. Jupiter is as old as the sun. Isn't that interesting? Because Jupiter is an archetype that represents sort of like a god figure, you know? It represents religion in all these different ways, different kinds of religions and faith. And so I just think that that's interesting. Um, Jupiter's also the biggest planet in the solar system. And and it's massive. If we didn't have Jupiter in our solar system, there would be something massively missing. Plus, I wanted to point out that since Jupiter is made of gases and dust from the formation of the sun, that Jupiter is constantly releasing those gases and dust that was from the formation of the sun into our solar system. And so, again, without Jupiter, there would be a lack of a certain substance that I believe our solar system feeds off of. The red spot, which is shown here, is a storm that is bigger than Earth, that's been raging on for hundreds of years. Scientists have watched some of these storms merge together, and it's a very active planet with regards to storm, the weather on or inside of Jupiter is quite turbulent. And I didn't put it here, but Jupiter is really only tilted 3 degrees, and so it doesn't have much of a difference in seasons. So it pretty much is consistent. It has the shortest day in the solar system. It only takes 9.9 hours, Earth hours, to spin on its axis. And its orbit is about 12 Earth years. It is 4,333 Earth days long, the orbit. And so that's just how long it takes to go around the sun. And go. Oh, one of the surprising things about Jupiter is that it has a ring around it. Voyager 1 discovered it in 1979. And this picture shows the ring um, that's halfway in Jupiter's shadow. Um, let's see, the satellite or ship, I don't know what to call it, Juno, is it was going to Jupiter to take pictures and to so we could study Jupiter more. And interestingly named Juno. And we'll get into that later. But so the camera attached to Juno was able to catch a picture of the ring of Jupiter going through the ring, basically, going in, on the inside of the ring. It's very, very interesting. Um, so yeah, Jupiter has a ring. It's made up of dust that gets stirred up from meteors that crash into inner moons because Jupiter has so many moons, and some of them are really far inside of the very close to Jupiter because Jupiter has quite a gravitational pull. And so that's what the ring is made up of is dust from Jupiter. And that's one of the reasons why I said earlier that Jupiter um puts dust out into our solar system, and there is a substance there in our solar system that wouldn't exist if Jupiter wasn't there. And I know that space is giant and huge, but when it comes to our solar system, it's relatively small. And I have a theory that our solar system altogether makes up the spaceship that us humans are inside of. And Earth is our livable ship. It's where we live, but the whole solar system, it is the all of the parts that work to our bigger spaceship, which is our solar system, which takes us through space. And so, yeah, so we'll go on to the next one here. And this is an image of the Hubble telescope capturing auroras on Jupiter. Isn't that cool? That this is proof that Jupiter is connected to the sun, even though it's further away than Earth, because we have auroras and Jupiter has auroras, and so does Saturn. And so I just think that this is again proof that there is an electric connection between all of the planets and the sun. And this is the interaction between the sun and Jupiter here. It's very beautiful. So beautiful. Isn't isn't Jupiter beautiful? Ah. So these are images that are constructed images from uh, a bunch of images that were taken by the Cassini spacecraft as it neared Jupiter in 2006 or around 2006. NASA usually releases these a little bit later, but this is the South Pole, and we can see the red storm here. The red dot is the storm, and the bands going around. And then this is the North Pole. This is where we were seeing those auroras right here in that other image. And we see the bands. It's different zones. I don't want to get too technical about this because I can really go on a tangent here. But all of the different bands are different zones and they flow different from one another. And so the white bands and the orange bands are um flowing against each other. And this is why we get the rippling effect around Jupiter, the beautiful rippling effect. And this is just an image that I wanted to take a minute and look at because, again, Jupiter in Leo, and we are showing off. We are putting Jupiter in the spotlight, showing off all of the beauty. This is a image that Juno took of the colorful, turbulent clouds in 2017 as getting very, very close to Jupiter. So close. And that was the whole purpose of Juno is to get really close and get really good images and to collect a bunch of data so that we could know more about Jupiter through Juno. Isn't that interesting? And this is one of the last images that Juno took um, as it was leaving Jupiter. And it's just so beautiful. And one of the things I wanted to mention about this image and this image is that they are enhanced. The colors have been enhanced. And so that's why it looks so extra. But one of the reasons why I wanted to use these images is because of Jupiter's co-rulership over two signs. And we'll get to that in a minute. But this is such a beautiful image here. I love it just looks unreal. It looks unreal. So beautiful. And Jupiter has 101 moons that we have actually um uh, identified. Words. And Mercury is still retrograde, so hopefully I can think of the words. So, but these are the four largest moons. And it's interesting to me the coincidence between Jupiter's glyph looking like a number four and Jupiter having four large moons that are the most significant amongst having 101 moons. So we have Europa, which is icy, and there is some talk in the scientific community that Europa might actually might have life on it. But it's icy. So yeah, it might be not like a much different kind of life, not like people. That's not the kind of life that they're talking about. And we have Io, who is another person or character or figure in Greek mythology. We have Callisto here. This moon is so interesting looking. I'm pretty sure it is volcanic or something like that. And Ganymede is the last big moon and named after one of the consorts of Zeus or Jupiter. So yeah, four largest moons out of 101. Now, Saturn has more moons, but I just think that's kind of crazy that there's so many moons. Um, it's not quite the same when a planet doesn't have water. Um, so it's interesting to think how these moons interact with the planet Jupiter, right? And this is an image from the Hubble telescope that shows three of the moons. This is a real picture. Three moons. One, here's the shadow of it. Two, here's the shadow of it. And here's three down here. Hopefully it shows up in the recording. But there are um three moons in this picture, which is quite rare actually, to be able to get a photo of three of the biggest moons all together. And it happened in on January 24th, 2015, which just so happens to be the last time that Jupiter was in Leo. So Jupiter was showing off a bit, showing off the moons, to take a picture. I mean, it is so Leo. Taking pictures of how beautiful you look with your moons. You got your ladies. And so, yeah, I just think that's cool. It looks unreal, but this is an actual picture from the Hubble telescope. Now, this image shows us Jupiter's cycle. Now, I did say that it was 12 years, about 12 years. but it's 11.9 years, more technically. And this is um, from May 2002 to April 2034. So we can see that Jupiter spends less time in Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces, and Aries, and spends a little bit more time in the rest of the zodiac, and especially over here in Virgo, Libra, and Scorpio. And so we see here that Jupiter will be in Leo for 1.07 years. It's just barely over a year. So I just thought that would was interesting to show. And so you could see the little slices of time that Jupiter spends in each zodiac. And this image also shows the years when Jupiter will be, or the days and the years when Jupiter will be ingressing into the next sign. So this is from AstroSeek. And you can look it up for yourself if you would like to, or just take a screenshot of this if you want to keep this for future reference. Now, the last two times Jupiter was in Leo was um, August 1st, 2002 to August 27th, 2003. And then July 16th, 2014 to August 11th, 2015. And this current time, it is June 29th to July 25th from 2026 to 2027. And so these are years to look at, and so that you can see the similarities that are coming at you. What is the pattern? What was going on in summer of 2002? What was going on in the summer of 2014? Um, your your own life will give you clues as to what will be coming next. And um, so yeah, we would look at these times in your life and see if you can remember anything, right? Sometimes it's hard to remember, but if you just relax your mind, you might be able to think of what was going on. You know, I can remember that the last time that Jupiter was in Leo from July 2014 to August 2015. We were um, in the United States. We were going through this very big uprising politically. It was like people all over were suddenly interested in participating in the, the government, politics, voting, having their voice heard. And I think that is one of the keys to think about is that I believe that Jupiter in Leo, it wants to be heard, it wants to be seen, wants to come out and show off, show something off, because everybody has a talent, everybody has something that they would like to show off, right? And so this one of the things to think about when you're thinking about your own life in these past times that Jupiter was in Leo. Let's see. So Jupiter in Leo is main character energy for sure. No doubt about it. There's no doubt about it. And and Jupiter in Leo is also about enlightened leadership. Not just any old leadership, but the enlightened, the illuminated, the like the chosen one, right? Jupiter in Leo is also about the freedom of self-expression. That's a big one. Freedom to express yourself. Um, we're gonna see a lot of that this year. A lot of just wanting to express yourself, and that might get a little loud, kind of like the lion's roar. It gets loud. Um, Jupiter in Leo is also about creative and adventures. Um, Leo is a lot about being creative, and Jupiter and the archetype of Jupiter is all about the adventure. So, what kind of creative adventures are you going to be going on this year? Yeah, Jupiter in Leo is also about expanded radiance. And I think that one kind of speaks for itself. It is the potential to shine bigger and brighter than you've ever shined before. And ultimately, um, Jupiter and Leo is the journey of the inner child or the journey to the inner child. Either way, we are all looking inside of us, finding our inner child, and there will be healing and there will be exploration and expression. And that inner child is really gonna want your attention for for healing, for expression. Um, yeah. So trying to move on here. And so yes, this is another beautiful image from the Juno spacecraft with enhanced colors and enhancements. But I thought that it really perfectly captures the essence of Jupiter being the co-ruler over Sagittarius and Pisces. It is fire and water. It is philosophy and spirituality. It is the visionary and the mystic. Jupiter is full of the potential for expansion and rebirth, but also for transcendence and for surrender, um, to dream. That is going into the inner child realm, and we're going to be tapping into our dreams again. What did you want to be when you grew up? I mean, Jupiter's helping us to grow up, to get bigger, to get larger, to see more of ourselves than we've ever seen before. And in Leo, this is all about being seen. So this is why the fire is really coming up. The philosophy is really coming up, and the visionary is really coming up. But we also have the water energy of flow, and putting fire and water together is quite steamy. I wanted to point that out too. We have a planet that's made out of gas and dust. Let's say gases. And when you put fire and water together, you create a steam, which is like a gas. So I thought that was so interesting to point out. And what we're going to be experiencing might feel a little steamy, a bit of vaporous. Um, yeah. I also wanted to point out quickly that the shadow side of Jupiter in Leo can be an inflated ego, inflated pride, the kind of pride that is basically mm, not good. There's pride that is deserved and earned. We'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. And then there's pride that is absolutely unnecessary because you didn't earn it. So, yeah. And another couple of shadow things are overindulgence and drama. Drama. Yeah, that's going to be one of the things this year. Maybe try not to be such a drama queen if you can help it. There might be times, though, that that's what your inner child is asking of you, is to just drama queen it up and deal with the mess later. That is quite Jupiter. Like, just deal with the mess later. We're gonna do some stuff, because Jupiter is Zeus, which we're gonna be getting into. And Zeus is a messy personality. Zeus is a very messy character, but also heralded as being awesome, amazing. So it's something to think about as we're going through this Jupiter and Leo year is sometimes you're gonna have to clean up these messes because you went ahead and did the awesome, amazing thing. And even if other people don't think it's awesome and amazing, it's an experience that you put um, under your belt, or however you say that. It's one of the things that you can say that you did. And that's what Jupiter and Leo is going to be about. It's like just take the messy adventure because um, sometimes that inner child needs that experience. Yeah. So this is a chart where Jupiter went into Leo in 2002. I thought that I would go back to the last two times that Jupiter went into Leo and show the charts because it gives us some insight as to what was going on then. And so when Jupiter went into Leo in 2002, the Sun and Mars and Mercury were also in Leo. And Jupiter comes into Leo conjuncting Vesta, who is all about loyalty. And so is Leo, really. Leo is very much about loyalty. And so it all makes sense. And the opposition happening here is with Neptune. And so Neptune in Aquarius. So this, and um Neptune is the other ruler to Pisces, Jupiter is one of them, and Neptune is the other for Pisces. And so, all of this was happening. This is happening before all of that Pisces energy came in. And it seems like, well, this is what, um, sort of like a preview of some of that Pisces energy that was to come in the future. But so in this chart, one of the main things I wanted to point out is that the sun is already in Leo. And so when Jupiter comes into Leo, there is a lot of Leo energy already brewing up. And it is solar energy, it's masculine energy. Mercury there is also adding to the somewhat masculine energy, but there are some things about Mercury that indicate that Mercury is neither masculine or feminine or both. Well, consider that. So, so yeah, I just wanted to point out there's a lot of masculine energy and try to remember back in 2002. Hmm, what could that mean? What did that mean for you? What kinds of things were you experiencing in 2002? I know that's a long time ago, but maybe you have an idea right away as to what was going on. And the other thing I want to point out about this chart is that the ruler, um, Jupiter is the ruler of Sagittarius. And so looking in Sagittarius, we have the South Node and Pluto conjunct in Sagittarius. And that's quite a powerful energy asking us to let go of belief systems, asking us to let go of um, possibly even certain laws and religions, um, and even letting go of certain freedoms, because this is what I was seeing with Neptune over here in Aquarius, and this opposition is that Aquarius is about like freedom and liberation and liberty. And with Neptune there, it is fogging up the situation. And so we are, we were experiencing sort of like a losing of boundaries with regards to freedom. And that might make sense for what was going on with you personally, listener. And the other thing I want to point out is that the moon is in Taurus as um, as Jupiter goes into Leo and making a square with um, Mars here, making a square with Mars and the sun, technically. And so this uh this fixed square is really describing the the energy of tension between um the solar and lunar energies, which are we're forcing issues to come up, because ultimately here we have the moon in a T square with the opposition of the sun and Neptune. So we have issues of emotional security and freedom of expression coming up, and there is some kind of forcing of the issue. And I believe that this is where we found ourselves losing sight of freedom because that Taurus moon is looking for safety, and freedom and safety don't always go together. Freedom um, is sometimes painfully the opposite of safety. So I just thought that that was interesting to look at. And the next chart is when Jupiter went into Leo in 2014. It was July 16th. And here we have Jupiter going into Leo, and we have the sun still in Cancer for this time. So it's not quite as explosive with all kinds of solar masculine energy. We're actually looking at the moon because the reason why I keep looking at the sun is because the sun is the ruler of Leo. So when Jupiter comes into Leo, the sun is important to look at. Where is the sun? What is the sun doing? What's happening? And the sun is in Cancer. And so that means that the moon is definitely more important this time. And there is a lunar storyline unfolding more or less during this Jupiter in Leo of 2014 to 2015. So in that year, 2014, the summer of 2014, that might be a little bit easier to remember what was going on then, what you were doing, and like what was going on. It might be a little bit easier to remember how you were feeling too, because the moon is the ruler over the sun for this, and the moon is in Pisces. So this is why I was saying that the previous Jupiter in Leo was like a preview of this Piscean energy that was coming up that was going to be very huge. And we can see that Jupiter is conjunct in out of sign conjunction with Black Moon Lilith in Cancer. And so this adds a darker, more shadowy energy to this particular Jupiter going into Leo because Black Moon Lilith is right there in between the Sun and Jupiter. And prior to Jupiter going into Leo in this chart, we can see that obviously Jupiter was conjunct Black Moon Lilith and the Sun right before that happening. So, and I am pretty sure that all of these planets stayed close to each other for a little while as Jupiter went into Leo. So we had this cluster going on here, and the ruler up here of the sun, the moon here, because the sun is in Cancer. So we're looking at the moon, and the moon is conjunct Chiron. Another indication that there was wounding going on. Now, One of the reasons why it's a possibility that people were getting more involved with politics and wanting to participate with politics is because of all of the pain and the suffering, and people wanted to change something. But this chart doesn't necessarily indicate a change for the better. This chart definitely indicates more wounding to initiate us into being even more uh, transformed healer because you can't necessarily learn without going through experiences. And Jupiter is all about the wisdom that you learn from having experiences. That's why adventure is part of the game because adventure is, and like travel and stuff can be really um, unscripted. You just have no idea what's going to be happening. You just put one foot in front of the other and you deal with what comes. And that's what an adventure truly is. And so this chart indicates to me that we were heading off on an adventure that we weren't quite aware of yet, right? This is, um, we were in the United States. A lot of us were filled with hope that things would change if we got out there and started saying what we wanted and started expressing ourselves again with that expression. Jupiter and Leo is all about that freedom of self-expression and having a lot of hope and faith moving in, to that. And here is a serious indicator for this chart is that the sun, the ruler of Jupiter going into Leo, the sun is in an exact T square to the nodes. And that is an indication that we're stepping off into the journey of evolution and being put into situations that are gonna help us grow and therefore indicating more pain. You know, the moon in Pisces doesn't necessarily scream hopefulness. It indicates surrender, um, being compassionate, more of like selfless service, giving a part of yourself away, losing boundaries even. And that might have been part of the process of learning how to have better boundaries, right? This is definitely a time that we went through where the boundaries were coming even more undone, physically and mentally. There's a lot of spiritual bypassing going on. Yeah. Um, we saw a lot of spiritual egos popping up. And I would say there was a lot of pride being thrown around, unearned pride. And Black Moon Lilith is always there to kind of cut into the dark space and see the shadow, pull the shadow out from its repressed place from its far out place that it tried to escape to. But the sun and Jupiter are both there, expanding and illuminating Black Moon Lilith. So yeah, this chart, even though we didn't know it yet, we didn't know what was coming in 2014. We didn't know that just a few years later there would be a pandemic. My gosh. We didn't know that we were going to be facing losing even more freedom. Um, we didn't know what was coming, but this chart, looking back, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to look at these past charts, is because they really do show us what we were on the precipice of as Jupiter was going into Leo. And I think that Jupiter going into Leo is always a significant year because it means that the sun's journey through the zodiac is being enhanced, expanded. The spotlight is being put on the sun going around the entire zodiac while Jupiter is in Leo. They work really well together, maybe too well. And remember, Jupiter is made of the sun's formation. And so when Jupiter comes into Leo, we are watching the sun or experiencing the sun and Jupiter interacting once again, just like they were when Jupiter and the sun were formed. It's something to consider for this year. And so this next chart is the current Jupiter in Leo. And we have a really special, very rare um, aspect formation that is inside of this chart. And I went and I did my research on this basket formation, and it is named and it was called by this guy, Barbolt, I think is his name. And he predicted that this basket formation is heralding a great opportunity and great changes. So this basket formation is also a part of the mini trine that I have been talking about for a long time between Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. You can see this is a mini trine here between them. But the basket formation is sextiles between uh, Pluto and Neptune, Neptune and Uranus and Jupiter. And Jupiter basically comes in and completes the basket. This is why Jupiter in Leo has been talked about the way that it's been talked about. Like, wow, it's such an amazing thing. And so, so first of all, I'll go back to the format. We're going to look at the sun because Jupiter going into Leo, the sun is the ruler. And so the sun is in Cancer again. Further away, like more in the first decan of Um, Cancer. Words. I'm telling you, I'm trying my best with these words. Because we currently are still experiencing Mercury. Mercury is stationing at this point in this chart for June 29th. Um, so I'm pretty sure stationing to go direct. Um, but so we'll see. Jupiter has all kinds of interesting conjunctions that happen like right after getting into Leo. So, but okay, so the sun is in Cancer. So we're gonna look at the moon, and where's the moon? In a full moon aspect. So the moon is over here in Capricorn, which means that Saturn rules over the moon, and the moon and Saturn are in a square, and it's an applying square, um, a uh, last quarter square where the moon will be moving in towards Saturn. So, and it is cardinal. It is a cardinal square. So this indicates that it's some kind of initiation, the start of something that is not a continued energy. It is a new energy, right? And we're already experiencing this newness, the new energy of Saturn being in Aries again. Saturn goes around the zodiac in about 30 years. And so 30, yeah, 30 years ago. 30 years ago, when Saturn was in Aries, the previous time, it was the start of something new for that phase of Saturn for that time. But so this time where Jupiter goes into Leo and the sun is in Cancer, and we're looking at a full moon happening it's just right after the full moon that Jupiter goes into Leo. And that speaks to illumination, like fully illuminated, spotlight on responsibility, on like dedication, work, the kind of um pride that is earned because we work with Saturn and we do things in real life. We affect our real life karma by doing real life work, and Saturn is in effect real life consequences. And so when you're really working on being responsible and having respect and um, creating certain structures that you know that you need in your life, then you are earning a sense of pride that Leo can feel good about. So I know that's quite it's really deconstructing something that most of us know. But this chart right here is saying this right now, that now is the time for a respectful kind of leadership, for a a bit more of a conservative approach to building our structures, and it points to collective karma, and it also points to our collective achievements. And since the moon and Saturn are actually in that square, it is more of a physical construct. We are being pushed to actually feel and do these things. Because the moon is the way that we feel. And so we're all being sort of washed over with the energy of um, wanting to work for what we can build for, you know, it's essentially we want to put something together for the future, build something for the future. And it is a grand new idea. It's a new vision. And this is one of the reasons why I brought up philosopher and the visionary, sorry, the visionary and the mystic, right? Is because the visionary has a vision and is uh, inspired to create and build the structure of that vision. And um, the energy of the mystic, however, is more of a like a surrendering, possibly idealistic energy. And even though we are still dealing with the visionary and mystic at the same time, uh, we are more looking at the visionary building things because now um, we have the sign of Pisces is going to be clearing out entirely. The node, the North Node, will be leaving Pisces soon after this event, which I'll get to. But and so this energy of Pisces being so strong is going to be waning in a way to where we're going to be constructing boundaries. Um, there is going to be a movement that is definitely going to be more conservative. And I'm using the chart to say this. I'm also using my intuition because the pendulum always swings. And I've been saying this. And it's not necessarily a preference that I'm talking about. I'm talking about what I see. And that's all I see. Um, One of the things that will be coming up for this Jupiter in Leo time is actually the construct of time. One of the things that I thought was so interesting that I read about, and I couldn't wait to put this together, is that I believe it's the United States House Congress is advancing a bill to stick with daylight savings time. And that is a construct of time. It's something that people have been wanting also. And it's not going to make everybody happy because some people want it to stay standard time and some people want it to stay daylight savings time. And I think that we're just going to have to experiment. We're just going to have to go on that adventure, make it happen, see what happens, right? And this is how we not only are messing with the construct of time, it might be a little bit messy, and we're just gonna have to clean it up later if we move ahead with this. But I just thought that it was really interesting. It hasn't passed the Senate, and it hasn't been signed into official law or whatever yet. But that is very interesting considering that this time that Jupiter moved into Leo, the moon was in Capricorn, which indicates the construct of time and how time plays out. Very cool. And, for people who think that astrology is so vague, it really isn't very vague, actually. It's very specific. Um, and so what else did I want to talk about before moving on? Um, Jupiter's, um, yes, the idea of the moon in Capricorn being about the crone. That is one of the things that I wanted to mention also. The the crone is a healer and a guide and um, an older essence of a person who has been through things, learned things, many mistakes, right? Many failures, but learning, right? Learned so much. And there's a lot of wisdom in the elder because of just living life, right? Going through this construct of time that I was just talking about. So one of the characters I that was brought up in my mind is the Baba Yaga character in the Vasilisa story. And I'll just try to sum it up quickly, is that Vasilisa had a stepmother and step sisters, kind of like a Cinderella thing, right? But she had a father who loved her, a mother who died. The mother who died gave her a wooden doll or whatever kind of doll and said, keep this doll safe, feed it, and it will help guide you. And so one day, um, later on, the stepmother's always asking Vasilisa to do things, to serve, to be like a servant or a slave. And one of the nights, the fire went out in the hearth, and so the stepmother, in a very evil moment, says to Vasilisa to go to the witch's hut in the forest to grab more fire for their fire, or else they would freeze to death. And so she sent off Vasilisa to do that and essentially thought that she was sending her off to her death. But Vasilisa has her doll with her, and the doll guides her through the forest, and she reaches the hut of the witch, which is Baba Yaga, and um, she asks the witch for fire. And the witch wouldn't give the fire for no work, for no reason, just for free. So she asks Vasilisa to do three tasks in three different nights, and they were seemingly impossible tasks. Um, we're talking about the work parts, the Capricorn, Saturn archetype. Back to the story. So Vasilisa is um, feeding her doll to get her doll to do the impossible tasks for her while Vasilisa actually sleeps at night. And one is sorting grain. Um, Another one is cleaning, and then another one is preparing a meal. And that's usually how the tasks are described in one way or another. And when Vasilisa is able to complete those three tasks, the witch is upset, furious, mad. And in some stories, she gives her the fire, in some stories, she doesn't. But Vasilisa gets the fire one way or another. And she carries the fire in a skull. And this she takes the fire in a skull back to her home, to her wicked stepmother and stepsisters. Um, and because she has, because Vasilisa has done the impossible, this fire energy works for her. And basically, the end of the story turns out that the fire burns the evil stepmother and stepsisters to ash, setting Vasilisa free. And in some of the stories, she is set free and finds a suitor afterwards. And so this is the story, I just tried to sum it up. This is the story of Baba Yaga, and she doesn't just, she's not just like a witch that just gives out resources for free. And that's the whole moral of the story is you put in the work, even if your circumstances suck. And you know what? You will be rewarded. You will. Because that's in essence how the matrix of Earth works. You put in the time, you put in the work, you put in the responsibility, and karma ends up as such. You earn your ability to have pride in what you've done. But it doesn't just come. You have to put in the work. And in some cases, you can leave the work up to like your higher self. And this is one of the things about this Leo, Jupiter and Leo is that um, in some cases, yes, you will be required to ask your higher self for help in doing an impossible task. That's one of the secrets to this year. And hold it dearly and tightly to your heart because there will be a day where you need to surrender your task to a higher energy. And if you believe in God, you surrender that to God and you say, you give it to God, right? It's going to be a big theme. It's one of the secrets to this Leo Jupiter is giving it over to God or your higher self while doing the work, while you chop wood and carry water. That is um, that's just something to think about. And um, one of the other things that I wanted to mention about the basket formation after talking about that story is that, yes, this basket can be amazing and it can be full of opportunity, but sextiles are going to require you to exert some energy and effort in order to be able to have access to these opportunities. There is a energy of resilience in these sextiles. And so with a um knowing that these opportunities aren't going to just show up if you aren't responding by doing the work that's put in front of you. And you will definitely need to tap into your intuition and into your heart space in order to understand when and where you ask for help. And this is going to be the healing journey for everybody. Because the years past, we've been kind of put through the ringer when Jupiter goes into Leo. We didn't know what was coming. And now we've been through it. And now we have it in our hearts to really heal. And I wanted to bring up the inner child again because I believe that this time around, our inner child is really way more accessible this time. Because this Capricorn moon is going to be pointing to um, points in time when we felt repressed, oppressed, um, that things weren't fair. Um, we're going to be remembering certain events and with a sense of openness, we can heal. And that is more or less the work. The effort that needs to be put into these to all of these sextiles, giving us all opportunity, these beautiful opportunities, is the work is being open, staying open, not being so sure of yourself or of what you believe. Because one of the things about this chart is the ongoing square between uh, Jupiter and Chiron. It is ongoing from when Jupiter was in Cancer and Chiron was in Aries. And so it was a cardinal square before. Now it's turning into a fixed square. And this fixed square between them that will be enduring is really asking us to dig into our belief systems because some of these beliefs that we have are hurting us. That's just how it is. So, one of the things to stay open and curious about is your own belief system. And the work is staying open. Um, okay. Now I have these other slides here that are about the mythology of the situation here. We have Jupiter. who is also the Greek Zeus. So Roman Jupiter, Greek Zeus. Same person. Father of the sky, that's what Jupiter pretty much means. It's father and of the sky. He's the god of thunder. He is the king of the gods. And this is one of the reasons why when Jupiter goes into Leo, it's such a powerful statement. It's because he's the king of the gods. And in this slide, I wanted to show this old bronze where he is making this hand gesture. I think that he's supposed to be holding a like a spear or a scepter of some kind. But this hand is making a very familiar gesture. And it is that open hand of, uh, we'll just call it spiritual. We'll try not to get into the weeds about this. And when you look at this figure, it's very familiar. Do you see the similarities? Uh, he's very, it's like, is this where we get the idea of what Jesus was supposed to look like? I don't know. All I know is that it's a story that is very much related to another story, which was passed down into another story. And just show here we have more depictions of Zeus or Jupiter. Mm, Um, and in all of these, he is supposed to be holding a scepter, and this other little thing he's holding here is often supposed to be like a thunderbolt, but it usually looks like a spiral. And I think that's a very interesting difference because that spiral tends to look like, to me, it represents like the spinning of the earth, like something that represents the axis of the earth spinning. And I just wanted to point that out. Um, and here it's about Zeus. He's primarily the god of the sky and weather. He's wielding the thunderbolt as his weapon and often accompanied by an eagle, which is his sacred animal. He's depicted as a powerful, bearded man, sometimes holding a scepter and wearing a crown of oak leaves, symbolizing authority and wisdom. So yeah. And in this sculpture here, he is also holding that spiral shaped thing that most people would say it's a thunderbolt. But I see he's holding the axis, like a spinning representation of like the axis of the earth. Um, this is a representation. It's a little bit more like Jupiter, but here he is with his eagle, and he's holding a ball with a little woman, and she is holding a wreath. And it's probably a wreath, oak crown, if I had to guess. And he's holding a scepter here, and he is seated also here. And he is depicted here as replacing the queen, essentially. This is what I get out of it based on what I know about the symbolism. The seated position is reserved symbolically for royalty. And at this point, Jupiter or Zeus is considered royalty. He has fought for his position there, and so he is seated, but he is still holding and elevating the goddess. And that is who he is holding on the ball, on that ball there is the goddess, and she is really the one who upholds the nature of reality and all of the things that he is known for, he basically gets from the goddess. So in this, I just, this is all like just research from mainly like Wikipedia and other history websites. I tried to sum up some of this stuff because there's so much information about mythology, and I just didn't want to get too distracted because I knew this was going to turn into a very long video. So, Zeus was worshipped throughout the Greek world with major sanctuaries at Olympia and Dodona. He was associated with justice, law, and the protection of cities and households, embodying the cosmic order. And that's why he's holding the goddess on a ball, is that is really what, the goddess really is the controller of cosmic old order. The Romans regarded Jupiter as the equivalent of the Greek Zeus. Jupiter was the chief deity of Roman state religion throughout the Republican and imperial eras until Christianity became the dominant religion of the empire. And one of the reasons why I wanted to mention that last part is because it seems obvious that Christianity just replaced Jupiter with another character in the way that the Romans replaced Zeus with a similar character, and in the way that in previous stories, Zeus overthrew his father. Zeus's father overthrew his father. So there is a history and a pattern in this lineage that I wanted to point out because we have symbolism everywhere. And the fact that Zeus and Jupiter is described as a bearded man, and he's associated with justice, law, the protection of cities and households. It's a very familiar character, very familiar. I'm not saying that um, it's a very direct connection, but I believe living in the matrix of Earth creates similar stories, and we just um, not just, but we are meant to have these stories so that we have a larger sense of purpose, um, and it is how we perceive the higher realms. It's yeah. So, and another thing I wanted to point out about the difference between Jupiter and Zeus is that the Romans decided that they were going to adopt Zeus and rename him Jupiter. And they have all kinds of reasons why. But at that point, the stories of Zeus get watered down for the purpose of politics, essentially. And that's another thing to remember as we go through this year. Um, do we see where the stories of our religions that are of modern day, um, are they getting watered down in any way? And why? What is this preparing us for? What does this actually mean? For the Romans, that watering down of such rich meaning, um, it from this perspective, it looks like it was like their downfall, you know? Um, Rome regarded itself as being favored because they devoted themselves the most to Jupiter. You know, they were favored. That's what they said. It sounds kind of familiar, doesn't it? I'll let you make that connection though. And here is another picture. It is a little bit pixelated, but I wanted to show that it is Zeus on the throne, and he is holding that woman in his hand again, and he's looking at her because he knows that the goddess is the one that he actually gets his power from. Yeah. And here's another cool etching of Jupiter being drawn in a chariot by two eagles and showing the zodiac signs that are ruled by Jupiter. We have Sagittarius and Pisces. And we've got people with a cross here. Um, this etching was made in somewhat modern times, considering how old and long ago Zeus and Jupiter were uh, deities. And so um, here's just another little indication that um, Jupiter and Zeus are sort of like a pre-Christian um, figure that is passed down. Now, I want to talk about Juno because Juno ties into the story. Juno is Hera, and she's the goddess of the heavens. She's the goddess of marriage, and she protects and provides. Um, I have done another video on Juno, so if you want more in-depth information about Juno, because I'm going to go kind of quickly over this part, um, please go back and watch that video because there's a lot more in there. Let's see. Okay, so, and this is Juno with her scepter and with Peacock behind her. And the and here it says the royal scepter is often associated with Hera. Her sacred plant is the pomegranate. Her sacred animals are the lion, the cuckoo bird, and the heifer, cow, and the peacock. To the people of ancient Greece, the pomegranate was a symbol associated with fertility and conception, and the peacock was said to represent the queen's regal or royal status. Hera is portrayed as a strong, domineering woman with a royal air of authority. And so this is an image that I actually made because I couldn't find a an ancient image with her with all of her symbols around her. We have bits and pieces in ancient sculpture, but I believe that a lot of ancient art was lost in time to her because of the ultimate war between Hera and Zeus, which definitely was some kind of manifestation on Earth, um, between uh, the matriarchy and the patriarchy. So here is Hera with the lion, because she is actually associated with the lion. And she actually is the one who raised the Nemean lion that Hercules um, had to kill for his first, um, what is it called? His first task. And it's one of the reasons why Leo is a constellation. And so ultimately, Hera or Juno is the reason why the lion was even that it even existed. Here is another image. This is an old etching of Juno or Hera. Um, and here I just have guardian of women's rights in marriage and the community. She's protector of women's dignity. She controls the weather and determines the success of the harvest. And she fiercely defends her own honor and can also be jealous and vengeful. And that's, one of the things that she's most remembered for is being jealous and vengeful towards Zeus's um, infidelities. Um, I wanted to point out that in the sculptures that do exist of Hera, she is holding usually a scepter and a dish. And I had to look up what this dish was, and I thought that it was really interesting. It's a patera. It played a crucial role in ancient religious practices, particularly in the context of libations, which is usually like an alcohol or it's a liquid of some kind. The ritual pouring of liquid offerings to the gods. This practice dates back to the Bronze Age and was a fundamental aspect of piety, sorry, and in ancient Greece and Rome. Libations were typically made with wine, honey, or oil, or all of them, and were offered during prayers or sacrifices. The act of pouring from a patera was often accompanied by invocations to deities, making it a vital tool for connecting with the divine. And often, as what we're familiar with in modern times, these libations were poured onto the ground for the homies, right? I thought that was really cool because that comes from Juno or Hera. She is very much associated with doing the prayers the right way, and the rituals the right way. Um, this is the story about Hera and the sacred geese. One of the most famous associations is the myth of the sacred geese of Hera at Argos. According to tradition, the geese were kept in the temple of Hera and were believed to have alerted the city to the approach of invaders. Geese were valued in the ancient world for their protective, nurturing, and alert nature. They were seen as maternal guardians, fiercely protective of their young, and their loud honking was interpreted as a warning or divine message. And I wanted to point out that in this slide, in this sculpture, here is the geese, the goose that is alerting to an intruder, and she is leaning on a lion that is a fountain, and she's tamed the lion. So, and where does the lion actually come from? Where, who is the lion actually attached to? Well, look at this image of Juno. It's very Egyptian and Sphinx-like, right? Hera, the queen of the gods, symbolized power and authority. Monarchs sought her protection and guidance in the building of their kingdoms. She was also linked to weather phenomena like rain, storms, and lightning. Really? Lightning? Did Zeus steal that from her? That's interesting, right? Farmers prayed to her for abundant crops and protection against disasters. So, yes, it looks like Hera was the original one who presided over lightning and weather and crops and the harvest, and things that basically got attributed to Zeus later on. And this is just this a little aside. I I just thought that it was very cool that there were next to, alongside the Olympic Games were Heraean Games. They were an ancient Greek festival featuring foot races for unmarried young women, held every 4 years at Olympia. And the Hera cult was established by 600 BCE, marked by the construction of the first Hera temple at Olympia. So, the Hera cult was trying to exist at the same time as um, the Olympic Games. I just thought that was kind of cool. Um, yeah, because it's not just about uh, this soft, feminine archetype. It is actually very active. Juno is very active, very athletic, very capable. And it's not really about, um, she's very independent. The power of independence comes through very strongly. And so, yeah, so I was asking, where does this lion actually come from? Where does the lion symbol actually come from? Well, Rhea was originally a Greek titaness. She's daughter of Uranus and Gaia, and the mother of the Olympian gods, including Zeus, Hera, Demeter, Hades, and Poseidon, by her brother husband, Kronos, aka Saturn. So, she is closely associated with fertility, motherhood, and the protection of children, famously saving her youngest son, Zeus, from being swallowed by Kronos by substituting a stone in his place. This is the story where Rhea um, is with Kronos or Saturn, and uh, she is giving birth to her children, and because Saturn, Kronos, was given a prophecy that one of his sons would overthrow him, just like he did with his father, he decided that he was going to swallow his children. Cool. But when it came to Zeus, he was the last child. He was the last one that she became pregnant with. And she went to her parents, Uranus and Gaia, sky and earth, and asked them what to do. And they came up with a plan that she would give Kronos a stone instead of the child. And she would take the child, Zeus, away to be raised by somebody else somewhere else. So it's kind of like an adoption story too, right? But lo and behold, she is the one that the lions are actually attached to. The lion archetype, the lion symbol actually comes from her. And here she is making that hand gesture that I was showing earlier with the sculpture of uh, Jupiter, Zeus. And she's also holding that patera that is the bowl for, or the dish for ritual libations. And here with uh, the lions. These are, the symbols uh, indicating just how strong and capable and independent and um, persuasive that she is. And here is a slide where she is giving a stone to Kronos instead of Zeus. And isn't it interesting that she ends up saving him. He ends up um, being raised and then coming back to overthrow his father, just like prophesized. And um, that is when the 10-year war between the Olympians and the Titans is started, is when Zeus comes back to overthrow his father. A 10-year war. Yes. And I just wanted to show here is another drawing where we have Rhea on the back of a lion, and the lion is going towards this solar symbol. I believe it's the sun, and over here is the moon. And she has a scepter with the lily at the top of it. And again, with the patera dish. And so this is who really the lion comes from. Um, there are stories on as to why the Nemean lion appears and Hercules kills it with his bare hands, and then Zeus puts the lion in the sky as a constellation. That's what happens. But prior to that story, the lion was a symbol of the strength of the goddess and the independence and the ability to tame nature. Now, this chart, last chart here that I have, I wanted to talk about this lastly because this is more where that bowl formation comes to life, where all of the outer planets are at 4 degrees, respectively. And here's Jupiter at 4 degrees. And the sun has moved into Leo also. And um, I created this chart with the moon in Scorpio. Um, because I believe that this is going to be an important trigger moment with the moon in Scorpio here on July 22nd, 2026. Um, have all these dates here. So, so this opposition between Jupiter and Pluto is too perfect because it includes Juno. Juno is conjunct Pluto. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to spend some time talking about Hera and Juno and Rhea. It's because this storyline is coming back for some kind of evolutionary phase. Um, we have the goddess, and her symbolism is becoming quite strong. And so, so one of the things about Juno and Pluto that are conjunct is that Pluto is in mythology, Pluto is the lord of the underworld. And when Zeus or anybody really would overthrow a figure or, have their victory over them, the nemesis or the villain would be sent to the underworld. And that's how it was taken care of. And we have Juno there. We have Juno communicating with the ruler of the underworld. And Pluto in declination has been actually in the underworld. We are going to go back and forth being able to see Pluto and not see Pluto because Pluto will be going into the realm where we can't see it. And um, so it's a lot easier to say with the past charts, like, oh, look at this is what happened. And we're looking at this chart now, and it's showing us the future. We aren't there yet. So we're at another moment where we don't quite know what's to come. But when when I look at this chart, some of the things that I see coming, coming out, other than this conjunction between Pluto and Juno, is that we have that bowl and the sun moving into um, Leo is immediately squaring Chiron in that fixed square again. So I talked about it with Jupiter being in that fixed square, and now the sun is there. And I believe that our wounds are definitely being highlighted and they're being illuminated. They're being brought up for healing because we are being asked to do a particular kind of work. We're doing the work, accessing our inner child, doing the work, um, creating or staying open, right? And in that openness will come your old wounds. They will be coming up. And the um the assistance that Juno is there for is that she's also a type of wounded healer also. Her wounds are relationship wounds. She has the wounds of um, not being chosen as the only one. She has the wounds of being married to someone that she fights with all the time. Um, and so I truly believe that relationships are going to be very important. All kinds of different kinds of relationships, but the intimate relationships are, um, the wounds that are coming up are about our intimate relationships that we had in the past and that we will be looking at for the future that we're currently in. Um, yeah. And uh, using this chart with the moon in Scorpio as the trigger moment. It doesn't have to be at exactly 15 degrees, but that's when the moon will be continuing the sextile from there's sextile from Mercury to Venus to the moon. And um, this part over here, these sextiles are very important to the outer planet sextiles because they're working on our actual personalities. So these um, planets that are in a sextile with each other, Mercury and Venus and the moon, are working with our emotions, our values, and with our minds. And trying to have an open mind, even though you're experiencing traumatic emotions from past wounds, keeping your values uh, in a logical fashion, in a practical fashion, because it's Venus in Virgo. So, practical values and staying open to what is practical. And then also with the moon in Scorpio, there's another ouchie. This is another indication of wounds from the past coming up, emotions, and most definitely fear, the emotion of fear from all of that. And so, literally, this moment is going to be bringing up fear that your inner child is holding on to. And I think that it's going to be worth all of the hard work that goes into healing that inner child that comes up, the wounds that come up, the um, the memories that come up. Um, Staying open and curious is going to help with those memories popping up because there will probably be a moment of insight with Uranus here, a moment of insight because with Uranus being in Gemini and Mercury in Cancer being the ruler over that, we've got emotional insights coming up, and Mercury being still in retrograde, we are in an internal phase in our mind. We are turning inward, and so these um emotional insights triggered by past wounds, you know, our inner child. And this is the mess that we'll be dealing with very imperfectly and with experimentation and with probably some amount of failure. But we only learn when we fail, and you try to stay open to that. And I just wanted to go through a few dates at the end of this, as I'm almost 2 hours in. And so some important dates to think about with Jupiter transiting through Leo is that, the next thing that will be happening, and I'll be making a video for this because it's a full moon, will be the Jupiter conjunct the Sun during the next full moon in Aquarius. That'll be on July 29th, 2026. But just before that, on July 26th, the nodes will be changing signs also. So the nodes will be going from Pisces and Virgo to uh, Aquarius and Leo. So the south node will be in Leo, and the north node will be in Aquarius. And that north node in Aquarius is going to be putting us outside of our comfort zone in the Aquarius archetype realm. And that's when Uranus in Gemini becomes much more prominent, important. Saturn is also the co-ruler for Aquarius. And so Saturn in Aries will also be more prominent when the North Node goes into Aquarius. When the South Node goes into Leo, the Sun and anything else in Leo will be we're will be asked to let go of something that is no longer useful. This is why, again, the wounds coming up, the inner child, and a big element of staying open and curious is letting go of stories that don't serve you anymore. So moving on, I'm going to try to move through this part quickly. We'll have Mercury conjunct Jupiter on August 15th, 2026 at 10 degrees of Leo. And then we'll have Jupiter trine Saturn. Saturn will be going retrograde and will be in that trine. And this trine is going to be coming up a few different times. And so it's not just a one-time thing. But the trine between Jupiter and Saturn starts August 28th, 2026. And it is a long aspect that keeps going um, on and off the whole time Jupiter is in Leo. And on November 2nd, 2026, we'll have the moon Jupiter conjunct at 24 degrees of Leo, and both of those will be conjunct the south node at 26 degrees Leo. So this is a big moment of letting go of something big and emotional. Letting go of some kind of big emotion that comes up. And November 2nd. Um, and then, this may have to do with elections and politics and stuff. On November 6th, 2026, we have Jupiter trine Eris at 25 degrees of Leo. And I'm including Eris in this because Eris is a strong energy. Eris, we probably shouldn't be forgetting about Eris because even though Eris moves super slow, anytime that there is a uh, lasting connection between these planets with Eris. There's going to be an element of uh, jealousy and uh, what is the main energy I'm looking for? Like being left out. Um, Possibly even abandonment issues coming up. That is probably on the extreme side, but that is the extremeness of feeling left out, is feeling abandoned. And it is going to be in a trine with Jupiter, and so it will be very easily exploited and expanded energy. Uh, so there's that. In November 14th, 2026, we'll have the South Node, Mars, and Jupiter all conjunct at 25 degrees of um, Leo. And so, like that Jupiter trining Eris, because all of that will be trine Eris and um, Chiron. Chiron will be getting in on the action on that one on November 14th. So the South Node and Mars and Jupiter all together is really about some kind of action, an actual action of letting go. First, there was the feeling coming in with the emotions, and you're working through that. And by November 14th, you will probably have figured out some kind of action of letting go, something physical. Um, and then on December 12th, 2026, Jupiter will station retrograde. Oh, and I didn't write down what degree. Well, Jupiter will be stationing retrograde in the later part of, I think it's the last decan of uh, Leo, because Jupiter kind of starts zipping right through Leo, and doesn't go retrograde until the end of this year, December 12th. Actually December 13th. It stations retrograde on December 12th and actually goes retrograde on December 13th. And so now we're moving into 2027 when, while Jupiter's going retrograde, we're going to have the Moon, South Node, and Jupiter all conjunct again on February 19th, 2027. And this is again us in a reconsideration phase, retroactively, introspectively, looking inside of our selves and our hearts for uh, more of that emotion that feels like it needs to be let go. We'll have already gone through a phase of physically letting something go, and then we're going to have the emotions come up again, only this time when Jupiter is retrograde. Let's see. In March 29th of 2027, we'll have Mars retrograde and the South Node and Jupiter retrograde all conjunct again. So we'll be re going over all of that stuff. And just remember, when we start going through it at the end of this year, it's going to continue through to probably around April of 2027. It's going to be internally um, uh, challenging. it may not be manifesting on the outside as so challenging because this is really a lot of internal energies, with um, personal energies going on, um, with the moon and with Mars um, and the South Node. So we've got the Mars, South Node, and Jupiter all conjunct in March 29th. And then Jupiter goes direct at 16 degrees of Leo on April 13th, 2027. And Jupiter will be conjunct the South Node for a while because the South Node is already going retrograde in a normal fashion. That's the way that the nodes travel, is in retrograde normally. And Jupiter going direct is going to be like at a standstill for a while. So, um, Jupiter and the South Node will be conjunct for about a month. Yeah. So for about a month. And Jupiter and the South Node conjunct all by themselves is going to be less of a crisis feeling, but it'll be a lingering feeling of needing to let go of something big, probably reconsidering your belief system, truly. And, a belief system consists of not only religion, faith, spirituality, but also law and philosophy. Um, kind of a little bit more mundane things also. And so on April 18th, we have Jupiter trine, Mercury conjunct, uh, Juno conjunct Saturn. So it'll be a bunch of fire energy coming up in April 18th, 2027. This trine energy, it should be an easier formation, not quite so challenging, but um, it may need a little bit more effort. You may need to just do a little bit more effort um, to be able to um, get any kind of achievement out of it because we've got Saturn there. So it'll be Jupiter trine, Mercury, Juno, and Saturn. So Mercury, Juno, and Saturn are going to be together in Aries just already on their own. And then it'll be trine Jupiter. So with Mercury, Juno, and Saturn together, there is a bit of this mythology coming up of um, when the gods and goddesses consult each other over a problem. And, Mercury means that we're getting Hermes involved. And Mercury is the only god that can go to the underworld and come back. And so Mercury is a messenger to the underworld, actually. Um, and from the underworld. And considering this chart that I have left it on here, um, you know, uh, Juno will be moving away from Pluto and will be moving towards uh, Mercury. And they'll be in, yeah, because Mercury is going to be going all the way around. by next year. That's why. I was like, how is this happening? Oh, yeah. So by the time Mercury and Juno are both in Aries together with Saturn, it'll be at 18 degrees because Saturn is going to be going back and forth, retrograde and direct. So it'll be at 18 degrees of Leo, and I mean Aries, in a trine to Leo. Um, it feels like this means, as far as messages from the underworld, it's like bringing something to light that hasn't been seen before. And that is the intention of the communication between the gods and goddesses. They have a challenge, and here in this trine formation, they're going to be um, putting their plan into action. So, yes. Um, Personally, for each person, that will be more seen in the transits of your chart. And so, through all of this, if you have any personal planets that are being hit, um, then, consider that you're going to be a part of this grand scheme. You're going to be one of the individuals that is bringing the future in. Um, it's a special position to be in, but it might be challenging, and there might be things coming to light that are dark. I don't know how else to say that. There might be some dark things coming up because there's going to be messages coming from the underworld. Um, and Juno is there. Like I said, she is a different kind of wounded healer. She is a wounded relationship, a healer, and um, she wants to help protect children, and she wants to protect the marriage, the institution of marriage, and she wants to help protect people who have had promises made to them. That's one of the other things to take away. So yeah. And okay, so moving on. Um, just a couple more dates here. We have Jupiter and Saturn going into a trine, as Jupiter finishes up the retrograde and goes direct. It'll be from April 9th to May 4th, this very extended trine between Jupiter and Saturn. And so this extended trine for another time, it's uh, the second time, but not the last time. It'll be just more of that energy that is trying to align structures and beliefs, the real and the idea realm. How do we put a new philosophy or a um, new religion even? How do we make a structure for that? Because, it seems like um, we should be, as the human family, we should be on the precipice of some new philosophy, new type of faith and religion coming forth. And I know how that sounds, but the the charts have really been speaking to me about um, like a new kind of faith coming through, new laws, um, probably after a um, period of time of getting rid of things like laws and um, philosophies that are no longer working for us. And for some people, that's going to be very hard for them to let go of. And that's why I keep saying that the work is to stay open. The work is to stay open so that you have access to the opportunities that are going to be opening. All right. So on May 31st, 2027, we'll have Jupiter square Venus. It'll be a fixed square between 20 degrees of Leo. Jupiter will be at 20 degrees Leo, and Venus will be at 20 degrees of Taurus. And Venus is comfortable in Taurus. And so this square should actually be not quite as challenging and uncomfortable, and more like a comfortable push. Uh, um, Something that we can clearly see that we've been working towards, that we're building and taking action on. So that'll be May 31st, 2027. And then on June 21st, 2027, we have Jupiter square Juno in a fixed square. So Jupiter will be at 23 degrees of Leo, and Juno will be 23 degrees of Taurus. So again, with the square between um, Leo and Taurus, and uh, Juno is probably somewhat comfortable in Taurus, going by the feminine archetype and all of her symbols that she's normally associated with. And so this particular fixed square that I'm talking about, June 21st, 2027, is a direct challenge between Zeus and Hera, Jupiter and Juno. And this is going to be a direct challenge within intimate relationships. And again, I can't say it enough. The job is to stay open. And the job is to maintain, because, like, see, the fixed energy is about sort of like maintaining, and we're gonna like keep going with this, we're gonna, uh, what is the word I'm looking for? But yeah, we're gonna keep going with this, is what I'm gonna say. So it is going to be like our intimate relationships have this very obvious speed bump that we are coming to. And people, again, people who are in relationships that aren't happy, that aren't fulfilling, are going to be challenged in this square. And the all this time that we have been going through, and I've been talking about, all the time that we have been going through Jupiter and Leo has been about us individually looking at our relationship to ourself and others, as described by this opposition that I've left it on here. And the other is our significant other. And I would say for people who aren't in intimate relationships, your other half is like your best friend then, you know? Your other half is somebody that you spend a lot of your time with. Um, and that might be something that's a little bit more challenging to look at that way. Um, but um, it is about the relationship between two people. And mainly our intimate relationships, the ones that we've been through, and the ones that we are about to be in. If you're not in a relationship and you come up to this fixed square on June 21st, 2027, then the work is to stay open again to uh, a a challenge that leads to an opportunity because um challenges to the squares always lead to taking action on something that was challenging that feels like a relief after it's done. And so um again, the actual individual relationship or the individual experience that you'll be having will be based on your own natal chart. So right now, what I'm saying is it might be a little bit vague, but if you want a more specific breakdown of what this might mean for you, I am open for readings, for to help you figure this out because um because this season of life, this year is going to be very important for people to investigate and experience um a lot of different events with um intimate relationships and dealing with being a responsible person, uh, being like an enlightened leader, and all of these things are kind of going against the grain of what is currently happening right now. Right now, there is a lot of disrespect that is on the main stage. There is a lot of um I don't know what to call them, but the kind of leaders that are not enlightened, those are very prominent right now. And yeah, so I'm not going to go off on a tangent on that, but I think that uh, as I've been saying this whole time, one of the um, one of the reoccurring energies that keeps coming up, and this is the last um, event date, is that trine between Jupiter and Saturn. It comes up again at 26 degrees of Leo, 26 degrees of Aries. And at, on July 6th, 2027, and they'll be trine the whole time until Jupiter ingresses into Virgo. So the whole ending of Jupiter and Leo is going to be in a trine to Saturn in uh Aries. And so it's like we come back again to what Aries, or sorry, Saturn and Aries is trying to achieve during this time. And Saturn will be conjunct Eris for the last trine, um, which is going to bring out more of that energy of feeling like you've been left out. But here's something to consider. You may have a feeling that you've been left out of something, but truly, if you have that feeling, you have not been left out, and you are one of the enlightened leaders, well on your way to creating the future for yourself and others, mainly for yourself. But it's something to remember that if you are feeling left out by the time this last trine between Jupiter and Saturn comes around, um, it's going to actually be a good sign because, as my parents used to say, if everybody's going to go jump off a cliff, are you going to go join them? You know, that kind of thing. And so that's one of the last things that I want to leave you with considering that Jupiter in Leo journey for the next year is there's going to be a lot of personal decisions that you're going to need to make all on your own. And it is part of the initiation phase for the enlightened leaders that are being born from this phase. You don't just you're not just born a leader, you go through experiences and you respond in certain ways that are considered respectful, considered responsible, and there's a very big difference between the type of leader that is an actual enlightened leader and a fake type of person who um, basically suggests to you that they are a leader but hasn't earned that title. And that is a big, big takeaway from this. And lastly, Jupiter ingresses into Virgo July 5th, 2027. So that is the whole journey of Jupiter in Leo. And that might be a lot more information than you even needed. I'm gonna stop the share now. Okay. Well, I'm so glad that I got all of that off of my chest because I've been looking at Jupiter and Leo and thinking, well, there are some interesting, intricate, and very important moments happening during this year. And I think that uh, learning that individually, people learning how to become leaders is going to be like a one of the things that we see the fruit of the time that we're going to be going through. Um, but yeah, so I hope that you were able to get something out of this. I really enjoyed putting this together for everybody, and this video will be um, helpful for this next year to come. So um, feel free to come back and revisit and take notes if you want um, about certain times that are going to be calling to you and certain time that you may need to remember that the work is staying open. That's the only way that you're going to have access to this basket formation that everybody's talking about. So, all right, well, I will be back for my full moon video. There'll be full moon and Aquarius. There'll be probably more conversation talking about all this stuff going on and the aspects and stuff. So, thanks for hanging in there and joining me for such a long video. I hope that everybody has a wonderful year with Jupiter and Leo. All right. See you next time. Bye.